Hello again. It's been a little while. I kind of went on a little hiatus there. Not really intentionally, but it kind of just ended up happening. To keep it short and simple, I lost motivation. I felt like the only way I was going to be able to come back and produce the content that, I want to put out, as well as the content you guys deserve, is by me disappearing for a little while. And by a little while, I mean like quite a while. I didn't really mean it for it to be that long, but yeah, that's what happened. So, anyways, I want to get right into the video here because I'm not trying to waste y'all's time. So, you clicked on this video for a reason, and I'm gonna make it worth your time. So, let's keep it very simple. There's only one place where your mind should reside, and that is right here in the present. You see, you got a timeline here, an invisible timeline. You can't see it, but just pretend it's there. So, on one end, you have the future, and on the other, we got the past, and right in the middle is where we currently are now, and that's the present. And that's where your mind should be. You shouldn't be thinking about the future, and you shouldn't be thinking about the past, because both of those are completely irrelevant to now. But they are relevant in the sense that they made you who you are. That part is great. That part is important, and that's what we care about. But we don't care about those moments in particular, if you get what I'm trying to say. You have no reason to think about them constantly. Well, when I say things that have made you who you are today, I'm mostly obviously implying the past, because the future isn't here yet. We don't know what's to come. But the past, and the future in its own right are both equally dangerous to think about. Especially if they are, for the most part, taking your focus away from the present. If you aren't thinking about the present, you're in the wrong place, my friend. Your mind just dwelled somewhere else. That's not where it should be. You can sit there all day and think about the past on one end, all the things you might have done wrong and things you wish you didn't do, or things that you might even regret. I don't like to use the word regret personally, because I think the word regret, it's a bad word pretty much. You might as well put it on the same kind of caliber as you put most swear words, honestly. Like, it's just a word you shouldn't use, because I feel like it's bad for your mind, honestly. It's a junk word. You might as well throw it out. Get rid of it. It's not important. So, yeah. And then we have the future. What's to come? You might be thinking about a job interview you have coming up, or, applying for whatever it is. It might involve your future career. You might also be thinking about whatever upcoming test you have. I know for some of you, you're on winter break, so that's not your concern. But if you're watching this in a time span where, you're got a big test coming up, or, I don't know, a final or a midterm or whatever it is, your mind's in the wrong place. You have the right to think about those kind of things, but you don't have the right to let them occupy and consume your mind. It's dangerous. It's horrible for you. Obviously, I don't want to villainize it, even though I pretty much just did. That's not what I intended to do. But, letting those things just constantly sit there in your brain for you to think about every single day, it's not what you should be doing. It's wasting your energy, and it's wasting your time. What you got to be doing is, thinking about what you did in this moment, what you're doing now to get you to there. You got to think about, is it enough? And maybe you got to do more, or maybe you're doing too much. That's for you to decide, not me. But believe me, I'm somebody who's constantly throughout my life thought about both ends of the timeline, other than the one that's the most important, being the present, like I've just said. I feel like oftentimes in my life, my brain is usually at one of those two ends, rather than being right in the dead center. It's kind of like that extremity thinking. It's either one end or it's the other. It's what's to come, what bad things might happen in the future from an action I've just taken, or an action that I did in the past that led to something bad in the present, or you know what I'm trying to say, you know, like things you might have done before, the girls you might have talked to that you didn't end up going anywhere with, the friendships that you had that that aren't there anymore because of something you might have done, or something they did, or you wish you could get that friendship or that relationship back, and that's all in the past, man. What's done is done. You can't go and fix that. You can't go back in time and change that. Believe me, I'm sure if all of us had a time machine right in front of us and we had the opportunity to go back and stop us from doing something stupid that we did, I'm sure we'd take that opportunity. I think most human beings would. But here's the kicker. You see, the kicker is that those things that you did that were stupid, they were important because they helped you learn a lesson. And we need lessons in our lives to improve as people, How are you going to grow as a human being if you don't do something stupid, so you know in the future not to do that? If that never happened, then you wouldn't know to not do that stupid thing. And that stupid thing that you did could be even stupider. Who knows, The sooner you learn that you're wrong from an action you took that occurred in your past, the better. I don't know if I phrased that right, but I hope you get what I'm saying there, You just gotta, accept that what happens, and what will happen is also meant to happen, and that's completely okay. It's not a bad thing for you to have done something stupid, or to be worrying about, something that might happen in the future. That's called you're being human. So, I don't mean to villainize the fact that people do this a lot. That their minds are always thinking about, the past or the future, because everyone's going to do it at some point in their lives, and, we're all going to continue to do it. It's not something that we can just turn off like that. But it's something to be aware of, and something you should learn to control, because it'll make you a lot happier and a lot less miserable. I mean, think about it. Like, when in your life have you thought about the future or the past and not have made yourself stressed out about that, When have those thoughts, like, being in your brain not produced some negative reaction out of you? I mean, of course, don't get me wrong. Sometimes they're good, Sometimes you might look back at a memory and be like, oh, wow, that was great. I missed that so much. But that can turn into you wanting to be back in that moment, and you missing it, and thinking that that point in your life was better than where you're at now. So that's negative, and you shouldn't think like that. So, And then, obviously with the future, if you're somebody like me who's a very anxious person, your anxiety is pretty high, it's pretty easy to be like thinking about something that comes in the future and always thinking something bad will come out of it. Even when in reality, that just might not be the truth. Maybe, whatever bad thing that you think is going to happen won't happen. But it also might not be the best outcome either that you're looking for, In terms of future events and what we're hoping for, there's, again, the extremities. There's the really bad thing that might come from that, and there's the really good thing that might come from that. And usually it's neither one, it's somewhere in the middle. It's not great, but it's not bad at all either, That's kind of the way you gotta see it, and I think that's the healthiest way to think about the future, if, you do think about the future at all. So, yeah. That's all I really had for today. I just, I wanted to have you guys thinking about that, because I think it's really important that we do. I also wanted to acknowledge that for the future of my YouTube channel, I'm going to be doing more than just this very soon. I've got everything I need now to make the kind of content that I really want to do possible, besides just sitting here in my car and talking to you guys, which I love doing, don't get me wrong, but, I want to expand from that as well. So, yeah. But in that case, That's all I got. So, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.